Hello everyone, welcome back to our fifth module on photography and multimedia design. And today we're going to talk about basic photo editing using Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Lightroom. First, we need to understand what is photo editing. By definition, photo editing is the process of perfecting an image using software such as Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop. The goal here is to correct fundamental elements such as light, color, and composition without drastically altering the reality of the object. In standard photography, there are four basic editing process. The first is exposure correction. This is adjusting the brightness so that the details in both the shadows and highlights are clearly visible. The second is color correction. This is adjusting the white balance for a natural look and fine-tuning saturation and vibrance. The third is crop and straighten. This is refine the framing and straighten tilted horizon through cropping. The fourth, we have sharpen and noise reduction. This is enhancing detail through sharpening and reducing digital grain or even noise often found in low light shots. Now, why editing matters? Why do we edit? Well, that's because raw files often look flat or even lack contrast. Thus, editing allows us to 1. Highlight the mood. This is using color grading to evoke specific emotions. Second is technical correction. This is fixing unavoidable error made during the shot. For example, how in the one at the left, the table is a bit tilted, so we can crop and make it not as tilted. The third is establishing a signature style by creating a consistent look that becomes a photographer's brand, like how maybe he likes to create a dark, moody pictures, or bright and contrast, warm, cold, and so on and so forth. Now, after we learn about the importance of photo editing, let's know much more in depth about the two applications that we're going to be using. That is Lightroom and Photoshop. Well, what is the difference between Lightroom and Photoshop? First is that Lightroom is designed for the entire photography workflow, from organizing into the final export. The key features of Lightroom is its non-destructive editing, where Lightroom doesn't change the original file at all. Instead, it saves your edits as notes, so you can always go back to the original photo anytime. While Photoshop itself is a pixel-based editor. While Lightroom handles the whole photo, Photoshops allow you to change every single tiny dot or pixel in your photo. Now, let's learn about the main function of Lightroom. First, it serves as photo library management, where it acts as a digital library for organizing, labeling, categorizing thousands of photos using catalogs, star ratings, and even keywords. The second is non-destructive raw processing. As I mentioned before, Lightroom capable of processing all the raw sensor data, providing maximum dynamic range for superior lighting and color corrections that are often impossible with the JPEG format. The third is automated batch editing. This helps streamline the workflow by synchronizing edits across hundreds of images instantly. This is often very crucial for a photographer of a wedding or even an event. Here are some essential Lightroom techniques. The first is importing and cataloging. This is using the rating system, the flagging system, which is pick and reject, and some keywords in order to sort thousands of photos in a matter of minutes in order to make sure only the best photo is going to be processed. The second one is global correction and color grading. This focuses on correcting the whole photo instantly. First, we have the basic panel. This is to control the exposure, contrast, highlights, and shadows. Next is tone curve. This is an in-depth technique to control the contrast or for a matte look. Next is HSL or color mixer. This helps to change certain color characteristics such as making the lights even more blue. The next one is color grading. This is to give off mood to shadows or even highlight for a much more cinematic look. Next is detail. This is focusing on sharpening or improving the pixel quality of a picture. This is particularly used in sharpening and cleaning the photo from digital noise. Next is lens corrections. This is to correct the characteristic of a camera lens that often causes some error on a visual error on a photo. Next is transform. This is to correct the perspective or even some tiltness that is found in certain photos. Next is effects. This is to give off a touch of artisticness that is often about stylization. The last but not least is calibration. This is to control how the Lightroom interprets the data color from the camera sensor. Now we're going to talk about the main functions of a Photoshop. Well, in the industry, Photoshop is known as the global standard for everything that involves in picture manipulation, visual effects creation, and even digital design, where we can often find it in one, photography. This is often used for advanced retouching, complex compositing, and photo restoration. The second is advertising and marketing. Photoshop helps create campaign visuals, poster, billboard, and promotional materials in order to achieve the pixel-perfect commercial campaigns. The third is UI/UX. They are often used for asset optimization, creating product mockups, and refining graphic elements prior to the development and coding phase. The last but not least is digital art. This serves as a digital canvas for professional illustration and painting, utilizing the diverse brush in order to simulate a traditional artistic media. Here are a few essential techniques that often used in Photoshop. The first is for cleanup and detail. First, we have healing and cloning. This is removing unwanted objects such as wires, trash, or even skin blemishes. The second is generative fill or AI, is using AI to add or remove elements naturally. The third is sharpening and noise reduction. This is to make the photo stay sharp and without having a lot of digital noise. Next is advanced layer and masking. First, we have portrait retouching. This is using the frequency separation techniques for a much smoother but still textured skin. Next is a dodge and burn. This is manually brightening or darkening areas in order to create depth to a face or even a landscape. Next, we have sky replacement. This is to change or replace the sky that is flat for a much more dramatic looking one. As well as content aware scale and cropped. This is changing the photo size without distorting the main subject. The final, we have finalization and output. This is the final step in the photography process that is to produced photo with the correct format in order to make sure that the quality is good for the intended use. We have export setting. This is converting raw files into final format such as JPEG, PNG, or even TIFF. We have watermarking. This is adding your logo or name to protect your work. And batch processing. This is exporting many photos at once with the same settings. Now that's all for today. I hope that you guys learned something and see you next time. Bye bye.